Hello and welcome into the RotoWire Esports Show. I'm Andrew Laird, joined as always by Ethan Sexton, today to talk about Wednesday's four-game LPL LCK slate. Before we do that, quick look into what we saw Tuesday. Um, so Rare Atom wins. They beat
Yep.
WE just like we expected. Um, and my first thought was less about like what happened to WE and more that like I just don't get Rare Atom. And being that they're your boys, can you just explain them to me how they just destroyed WE today, or is it just as simply that they're good and I need to accept it?
Let's not go that far at saying they're my boys. I guess they hold a special place in my heart for that one big tournament win they gave me. But yeah, they're not like my favorite team necessarily. I guess like the way to look at them is they're like who can we compare them to, man? They're like a Southampton in the Premier League. All right, so they're like a mid-table team, mid-table side, but sometimes they can punch above their weight and take down some of the bigger boys, and sometimes they can get beat by the relegation zone teams as well. So I think that's like the comparison I'd sort of make, right? Like they're a solid team, so they are always like have the ability to take down some of the better teams.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that they can never. Once we're into the playoffs and stuff, they can never find one. It's a challenge for them to get into the playoffs
Right.
themselves sometimes, and then two, when they're in there, they struggle to really make it far in the playoffs. But yeah, they're a team that can punch above their weight sometimes, man. So WE they were flying a little bit, and they've looked shaky obviously of late, and that mid lane is kind of a question mark spot for them. So I think they should still be pretty good going forward. They've just got such a good core lineup that they should still be a playoff team and contending for a good spot once they get in the playoffs. But yeah, no, we liked Rare Atom, the Rare Atom upset. We didn't think it was like a definite thing or anything like that, but that was the one we liked for the upset today. And then EDG actually should have dropped the game. They were getting smashed in game one of their series today, and then you know kind of got that handed to them by V5, and then they
Mm-hmm.
crushed in game two. So yeah, so basically kind of what we saw coming a little bit, I guess. Although EDG got a little lucky that they didn't drop a game, in my opinion.
Yeah, I had an EDG Rare Atom lineup that was for EDG because of course they're going to outscore Rare Atom,
Right.
and they didn't. So it didn't pay off nearly as much. I did
Yeah.
notice I was looking through the scoring. Two of the three highest scoring players on the slate were mid laners,
Yep.
which we had kind of talked about a little bit yesterday, if only because Yimeng from WE was starting and he was a little cheaper. So we were like, oh, you could do two mid laner lineups, and obviously he was not one of the ones you should have ended up with. It was
Right.
interesting to see that if you went double mid with EDG and Rare Atom, that was actually kind of ended up being the best you could get, I think.
Yeah, the tournaments that I'm in, the winning lineup was double 80 carry still.
Yeah,
So Viper captain with iBoy.
yeah. I don't think
Yeah,
people played the double mid, but I think
yep,
it outscored
double
it.
mid was definitely, it was only like 2 points off the top score. So yeah, it was certainly viable. And I know we've been hyping up a lot of the double jungle over double mid, but double mid is always going to be a viable way to go. I think still, just because mid laners and 80 carries are still going to be your main sources of carry roles in most matchups. It's just that junglers have been so impactful so far this season, so that's why we were kind of mentioning the fact that double jungle has also become a pretty viable way to go, especially on the slates like with two big favorites where you can't fit in
Right.
the carry oriented roles. But yeah, I think double mid can certainly still be a viable way to play. It's just we're seeing a lot of supportive picks sometimes in the mid lane, or more team oriented picks, which sometimes caps the kill upside for mid laners. But as the meta shifts, the styles of play shift, then opens up some more things for mid laners and things of that nature. So it's just you always got to kind of keep an eye on that stuff as well, just to see how teams are playing and what rosters or what lineup constructions they're kind of coming in with.
Yeah. was just weird. Like WE, lowest scoring team on the slate. Like I think in every position.
Yeah.
Oh no, not the mid lane, I guess. But like, just terrible. Anyway.
Yep.
Let's look at this 4-game slate on Wednesday. There's another. I think I saw another 70K GPP on DraftKings, which is a nice price. The entry fee is up to $20 though, so it's kind of artificially inflated. I don't want to say artificially, but we were getting 70K with $15 entries. So
right,
you pay more, you get more. So the biggest favorite on the slate is JDG against Rogue Warriors. I am fairly certain this is not going to be a slate where I play Rogue Warriors, but I always reserve that possibility. But man, it looks like just throwing money out the window on this slate. Gen G favored against DRX. They're a pretty big favorite, not nearly as big as JDG. Then we've got T1 against Red Force and E-Star against Thunder Talk. I've already seen somebody say that Thunder Talk is going to take down E-Star, and the way that you just reacted makes me think you might think so too.
I mean, I could definitely see it, right? They got their first win on the board, and now they're hungry for more. And I don't know. Like, I still think that team is bad, but I also think E-Star is pretty bad too. So would it be a surprise if Thunder Talk win tomorrow? I certainly don't think so. That could be an insanely sloppy series that ends up with the winner being the highest scoring team on the slate. Honestly, just because we might see a lot of fighting, a lot of scrappy back and forths, and two teams that don't play the cleanest League of Legends, so they might have to fight a lot to get to the end there tomorrow.
Yeah.
That it's just it's such a crapshoot. Like, which side do you really want to be on? In my opinion, why not take a shot with Thunder Talk because they're cheap. If you play E-Star, they're not expensive or anything like that. They're the cheapest favorite, I think.
Yeah, they kind of flip back and forth with T1.
Yeah. But why? If you play them and then they lose, you're not really getting anything from the salary savings necessarily. Whereas you play Thunder Talk, you pretty much open up any avenue you want to go to tomorrow. So if you want to take a stab on that series, I don't see why you wouldn't want to go the Thunder Talk side. But I will just say it's not a safe thing at all. I mean, that team is. I still think they're bad. I just think E-Star are also pretty bad. So certainly wouldn't be a surprise to see the Thunder Talk be in the winning lineups tomorrow. But man, it doesn't feel great picking either side of that matchup, honestly.
My thought is that Thunder Talk is going to be the most popular underdog, and I think the JDG TT combos we see, like if you are going in there thinking you're going to pair those two and somehow be unique, I think the only way to do it is to captain the team slot and ensure that you finish last. But I just don't see many people going away from that. Obviously, that leaves plenty of leverage points everywhere else. But the JDG kill prop is higher than I've seen in any series all season.
Yeah, well, we talk about our boys there, Rogue Warriors, right? They love to give up kills. So JDG have been really underperforming this year. Of course, as we all know, they're 2-3. I mean, they're down. They're just above E-Star and Thunder Talk in the standings. But this is a series that they're not going to lose. I mean, I believe that wholeheartedly. I can't see them losing. I still think JDG are pretty good. They're just not as good as we remember from last year, at least not right in this moment. I mean, it's really hard to imagine JDG even dropping a game in that series tomorrow. And, as we know, Rogue Warriors really love to give up deaths. They cough them up a lot. So, I mean, JDG definitely deserving to be the highest favorite on the slate, I would say, and probably also deserving of those high kill props as well.
Yeah, so Rogue Warriors leads the teams on the slate with 19.7 deaths per game.
Right.
Thunder Talk is right after that at 15.9, and then it's JDG at 15.3, just to emphasize how badly they've been playing. But you just have to assume they're also averaging the second most kills. So when you the odds usually do this story, like tell the story enough that like they're the biggest favorites, so just like go for it. Right. But like when you look into it and see why, and it's like, oh, they average the second most kills per game, and they're playing the team that averages the most deaths per game. It's that simple.
Right. I mean, JDG have been bad, like we just talked about, but in the same sense, their losses are to Top Esports, Invictus Gaming, and I believe the EDG is their third loss. Yeah, it is. I finally found it on my screen here. So, they haven't been as good as we remember from last year, but at the same time, are we really going to – I don't think we should bury them too hard just yet. Those are three good teams that their losses are to. They took down Rare Adam, of course, which Rare Adam have been solid. And then they've got another win in there somewhere against BLG, who are a solid team as well.
They're solid, yeah.
So, maybe JDG aren't what we remember from last year, like we're saying, but, they're still way too good to lose to this Rogue Warriors team, in my opinion. And to your point there, with Rogue Warriors giving up the most kills on this slate, it's hard not to look at JDG pretty heavily tomorrow in your stacks. You got to pay a premium on him, though, is the thing. So even Kanavi is really expensive.
Yeah.
If you want to captain him, he's the same price as Ruler in the 80 carry spot. So, they are priced up, which makes it a little challenging unless you want to go for one of these big underdogs like TT or the one we haven't talked about yet is do we think that now they're not as big of an underdog, but do we think that T1 are just in full like dumpster fire mode right now? Do we want to take a shot on NS Red Force tomorrow? I think we'll see people doing that as well, just because Red Force have been decent. We don't think they're like a great team or anything like that, but they've been decent, and T1 have been really bad. Just really, I mean, you want to talk about a team that's underperforming? It's most certainly T1 to a much bigger degree even than JDG, because they're losing to teams you really can fault them for losing to, like Afrika last time out, and even losing to KT and is not great as well. They've lost to some good teams as well, but man, they're really underperforming, and especially in this moment, they're playing horrible. So I think NS Red Force are worth a look as well, but maybe that series doesn't have quite as much upside as some of these other ones do. TT E-Star, not the safest one to call, like we said, but we think if that's a sloppy back and forth kill fest, whoever wins, their score is going to be through the roof. And then JDG looked pretty popular it's hard to imagine JDG not getting the 2-0 tomorrow. The only question there is, do they pay off those lofty salaries? Can they generate enough kills? Are they going to have to? So that's just something to consider as well. And then if we look at Gen G DRX, I think that's to me, that seems like a pretty clear 2-0 for Gen G, maybe a 2-1. But DRX we're playing pretty well, but they've kind of stumbled of late, and I still really like this Gen G team quite a bit. So that feels like a 2-0 as well, but maybe they don't put up Gen G doesn't have quite as high as upside either, as especially these LPL teams that are going to be winning, I think.
Yeah, I think to go back to JDG for a second, like coming in, the expectation is that they're like one of the best teams. I mean, in China, like it's as simple as that. Like they're one of the best, but They seem to have lost to everyone else that we were like, these teams are also possibly one of the best. But that doesn't mean that they can't just destroy bad teams, and that's exactly what they're facing. So like I get it.
That's exactly how I feel as well, man. Like maybe they're not as good this year. They can't beat these other top teams. Time will tell. But they're still way too good to lose to these bottom feeders.
Right. I don't want to say they're kind of like Suning in that respect, because I think we kind of assumed they were better than Suning, although and Suning at least has like a good result against a good team. JDG just hasn't gotten theirs yet, but like they're good. Anyway. So yeah, I think the Red Force Thunder Talk like discussion, it's like nobody would be surprised if either one won, because and it's not necessarily because of them, although we have seen them win, but like they're just the amount of disappointment from T1 and E-Star, you're just like, they're like you said, they're a dumpster fire, and it just keeps going.
I mean, it's tough, like, because E-Star I legitimately think are just kind of a bad team, right? T1 are not a bad team, but they're bad right now. Like they should not be this bad. They have too good of a lineup. They have too many good players on that team, but it's just their form right now is absolutely atrocious. So
they might have too many good players. I think that might be the problem.
I wonder if that's part of the issue. They can't. It's like Frank Lampard with Chelsea. They can't. They don't put the same roster out game to game, and obviously they're doing scrimmages. They're scrimming teams in behind the scenes in the build up to their matches. Surely, so you would think all these players are getting enough time with the rest of the team to mesh. But once they get on stage and into the bright lights, it's just not coming together right now. They're really struggling. So I wonder if that is part of the issue as well. Is just there's no set lineup. It's been rough. A lot of the players are underperforming. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if Canna, who's been consistent top laner for a long time now for them, he might get benched. He's been playing like crap. Then it's just always a toss up in the mid lane, and it's been a toss up lately at AD carry and jungle, and it seems like Carrier is really the only set in stone player right now in the support role. So they are the 3:00 game, so you'll know the lineups before lock if you look around on Twitter. But I don't know. It's weird because I wouldn't fault anyone for taking Red Force in this matchup just based off form, but at the same time, I think everybody's expecting T1 to turn this around at some point, and it doesn't start tomorrow at low ownership, just because maybe people don't play Red Force, but maybe they just want to avoid that series completely because of how bad T1 have been. So could be a good time to get back on the T1 bandwagon at low ownership, but at the same time, they're very hard to trust right now.
Yeah, T1 feels like the team that when they do start winning, everybody who has lost all their money using them up until that point, it's like, I told you, here they come. And it's like you just have to hope that you still have money left by the time they actually start to win. Because you can definitely be broke before that turns around.
Right.
Do you think the JDG ownership is just like so much higher than the Gen G?
I don't know. It's hard to say because I wonder if people go more to Gen G as a little bit of a cheaper favorite, just because those JDG prices are they're
crazy,
so incredibly high, man. It's pretty nutty. Like you can save just in the 80 carry roll, you can save $600 from going to Ruler from Loken. And, Ruler's got just as much upside as any 80 carry in the world. So, it's a nice little salary saver. Obviously, DRX are a much more competent opponent than Rogue Warriors. So, if I was looking for upside, I think JDG are the upside team, right? But it's already baked into their price. So you're really not, getting any salary savings. You got to have them hit their ceilings. Even in a sweep, if they only get 30 kills, 33 kills, is that really paying off these lofty salaries? I'm not sure it is. I think JDG will be extremely popular just because they seem like the all-around safest team on this slate. But maybe people look to go to like a Gen G as a little bit of a cheaper option in a good matchup as well. So I'm never that great at predicting ownership, but it's just kind of something to consider at least, I guess.
Yeah, just like looking at different combinations, like you can play Gen G E-Star easily with any captain that you want. I mean, not every combination works, but like that one works. You can play a Ruler captain with T1 with a Gen G long stack. Like I think just from a salary perspective, like if you want to play two favorites, there's no way you're playing JDG, and so that kind of gives you the possibility to get two favorites in without having to like totally blow up your roster in terms of like a support captain or something like that.
Right, yeah, because even like we said already, Kanavi is the same price in the captain spot as Ruler, so it's really a challenge to get any sort of double favorite lineup with JDG tomorrow for the most part.
Yeah, for sure. At least I haven't even looked actually at the short stack possibility, but I can't imagine that makes it any easier. I will say the DraftKings does this every so often. They've got a mini max tomorrow for those who don't play much volume and don't usually make a lot of lineups. It's 50 cent entry, 150 max. with 500 to first, which is a little more attractive if you play kind of the lower dollar stuff. It's generally what I play. So if you want to try a 10 or 20 lineup night, this is it, because the mini-max, build your lineups for first place, because $500 for first place off of a 50-cent entry is pretty nice. So that's awesome. Worth trying. So
I think this is a good slate for that too, right? Because we've already talked about some of these underdogs who could win.
Yep.
There's a lot of avenues to go. So that's a good call there. I mean, not all of us have the bankrolls where we can do these 150 lineups and stuff like that in the normal contest. But at 50 cents a pop, you do 10 lineups, you're only spending $5.
$5, yeah.
Matters, right? So that's not a bad way to do it right there. So that's a good shout out for that contest.
I mean,
can't give DraftKings too much credit though.
No. I mean, it's 500 to first, which obviously tends to get split. It's $25 to sixth.
Yeah.
So.
And to quote Jordan Cooper, set of steak
knives, right?
After that, right? So.
Those are plastic knives at that point, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But just what we were saying, like we mention every so often, if you're somebody who makes a lot of lineups, or if you make a couple lineups, like this tournament makes it easier to do that from a bankroll perspective.
Yep. And League is definitely a good, sport to do the multiple entries, because as we've seen, there's been tons of upsets and all sorts of crazy stuff happens. So, or even when you're on the right teams, you might have the wrong combo. So it's nice to be able to make more lineups at not a huge salary investment, I guess.
Yeah, I will say that anybody who doesn't usually make up to 150 lineups and thinks that you can just get every combination doing that, you're not remotely close. So
no.
It's I think people start to get that idea when somebody who does make 150 wins, and they're like, oh well, you get every combo, but like, it's not even close. But on that point,
still got to be good, yeah.
Right. So. But we were talking about, like, you don't know if you want to go with Thunder Talk or a Red Force upset. Like, if you want to make one lineup that's JDG Red Force, then just make another one JDG and Thunder Talk.
Yep.
And at least for this tournament, it's 50 cents. So try that. I think that's all I got.
Yep.
I don't know why I'm making a plug for the mini-max, but I don't know. I like the idea of turning a potential 50-cent entry into $500. So anyway.
It's
all right.
Nice. Not so much of an investment, but still a pretty good first place prize. So
right.
Why not?
If you guys have enjoyed the video, if you could please just hit the like button below. Feel free to subscribe to all the RotoWire videos covering League of Legends. Obviously, we've got NHL, NBA. MLB has started up, as crazy as that sounds, since it's February 2nd, but baseball's in full swing. If you are intrigued by some of the screenshots that I'm showing from our cheat sheets and other stat pages, you can just go to rotowire.com/pod, P-O-D, to get 10 free days to the site. Gets you access to all the League of Legends stuff, as well as all the other sports that we cover. We also have CSGO stats. If anybody's playing any Counter-Strike, you can jump in there as well. So check that out. So Ethan, thank you for that, and good luck on Wednesday.
All right, man. Same to you.